I'm Nancy Antonucci, nickname is Nooch, and my colleague Jenna Matlin. And we're here to talk about the third series of 3 videos that we thought would be helpful in terms of just two pro readers talking shop during this time. So it hopefully will help you during this quarantine time. It'll hopefully help you in the future as well. Just hearing, I think a lot of us get information by osmosis, just listening to people talk. So we're off. How are you doing, Jenna?
I'm doing okay. I've actually been really, really busy of late as people are reaching out, looking for more support, both uh, from a tarot client perspective as well as people that want business coaching. Like it's been quite busy. And then I've had a couple classes really do well. I think as people are thinking, how do I spend my extra time? What do I want to learn? So it's been busy and good, but I want to go dancing. I have to be honest with you. And I know I can dance at home, but I want to go dancing with other people that I don't know. I
That's
miss
right.
that. So,
I've been just sharing pictures of me pro COVID of just anytime I'm holding someone or hugging someone because I just need to see those pictures of, us glommed onto each other because I miss that. I miss hugging. I miss holding hands. I miss kissing someone. It's like, besides my family. Well, let's start today. Today we're going to talk business ideas and boundaries and hopefully tying in the being and the boundaries of the first 2 videos to how to have a business that is vital, where you don't feel depleted, where it's a life sustaining income. Uh, and when I say life sustaining income, even though I know these days it's like, what happened to our world? What I would also say is life sustaining income also includes you saving enough money for when you're an old person. That's what I mean. That's how I define life sustaining income. So it's not what will help me stay afloat now, but what helps me
mm,
eat when I'm 80. And a lot of you are nowhere near, I'm 61, soon to be 62. So I just am really serving my old woman. I really, with pleasure and with honor, and hopefully I can live a long life, and I really want a long life. So that would be nice if I was eating along that
mm.
trajectory. How would you define a really healthy business model? What is that
Well,
for you?
you know what? I want to start with a quick story because it's something that tickled my consciousness yesterday. Someone reached out to me about yet another like tarot or spiritual business coach who starts off their marketing with 6 figures. I made 6 figures last year. And I'm like, actually, even if that is honest, that's not really that impressive because someone who has a job, like a corporate job, making 6 figures, and a business making 6 figures is two different things,
Right.
because you have your 6 figures as a business, but then you have your business costs. Then you're not getting health insurance, you're not getting retirement, you're not getting paid vacation, you're not being paid sick leave. And so all of those go into the prices that we need to think about, right? So when people say, oh, well, you charge how much or how much is that? And it's like, all of this stuff has to be supported. It's not about what it necessarily is per hour, but I do think
Mhm.
there's a dance that has to happen between what do you need to live, and like you said, Nancy, like live, and what will people pay? What is the value of that thing?
Mhm.
And that's a tough dance for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, and especially now, as we are going through COVID and a lot of people are losing their jobs, a lot of people in gig economies like ourselves have very little support that's being given. They keep promising it, but we'll see
Right.
it. We'll see it when we see it. So those are kind of some of the thoughts that I was thinking about, like as we were moving into this like business portion of our 3-part series.
Right.
Um, and that when we as readers that we often underprice ourselves because
Oh yeah.
we want to help, we want to give, we feel bad, but at the same time, we have to make a living that allows us to do this work. I
Right.
can't do this work if I have to go get another job now. That means
Right.
I serve less people overall, right? So I think kind of coming to that place is important. What do you think?
Oh God, I still remember being a young reader, and I was invited to read at the Walker Art Museum. They had this really weird, surrealistic thing, and they thought it'd be kind of groovy to have a couple readers there, which I thought it really was. And I was young, and the other reader was older, and she came over to me and she introduced herself and ended up ended up being a pretty good friend of mine after that, kind of a first mentor really. And she said, how much do you charge for a reading? And I said, sliding fee scale.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, no, no, there's other things you can offer for sliding fee scale, but not your readings.
Mm-hmm.
Because what that means is, if you don't charge, and I think at that time in Minneapolis back in the 80s, or yeah, it would have been late 80s, 75 an hour was pretty high, and so she said, I think she said 75 or 80, that's what you need to charge. And immediately I thought, I'm not worth that. And she said, but if you think that, you make all the rest of us not worth that price. It was a really huge lesson for me. It was like, oh, wait, I am in this with other people. This is a boat, and it's not like we're going to, and she said, and you can do like 2 free clients a year. There's ways that you can creatively do this where people that can't afford you. But she said, Nance, I mean, can you afford your beautician? Can you afford getting your hair done? And she goes, do you save money for that? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, then tell them they can save money for you. And it was just this feeling of not a capitalistic entitled thing as much as, no, it has to be a fair playing field, that you're not in it alone. And no, I'm never going to charge $350 an hour for a reading. I'm sorry. In my mind, the only people that should get paid $350 an hour are people that are negotiating a peace treaty with Israel and Palestine. That's it. Everyone else, bring it down. And I was like, no. But I mean, celebrity readers and people that read for a higher echelon, I mean, if they can do it, God bless them. But the rest of us, I've gotten to a place too where I have a strong enough network in the cities where there's gigs I just don't want to do. I don't want, I do not leave the house for under 350. I don't leave the house. I can make that here. So I have other readers in my Twin Cities Tarot Collective of people that really need, they really want to build their career. They really want to do more readings. So I throw it to them and go, hey, do you want to do this gig? But the cheapest one is not the one who needs to get it. It's like, no, you guys can't undercut any of us. This is the price we're all starting at. Not me in particular, but that circle of people. It's like, no, we don't go under this, because cheap doesn't mean better. Cheap is just cheap.
Yeah, yeah. And, in the areas where I live, that we have a lot of the neon sign readers.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's an expectation that you are like them. So it's like, well, they only charge $10 and they only charge 15 or 20. And I'm like, that's true. But you don't understand that that is the hook. And then after that, they're going to, depending on if they think you're a mark or not, they're going to tell you you have a curse on you. They're going to tell you that your past life has a curse on it, that your auras are terrible. And I know personally a lot of people that have fallen for it, people who couldn't afford it. And those people took thousands of dollars off of them or hundreds of dollars off of them.
Yeah.
And so, so I always say, like, this is my price. We're not playing around. There's no negotiation. Everything is visible. but I'm not going to invent reasons for you to like buy my other services. And I would never
Right.
use fear as the tone of my marketing. I
Oh,
just
totally.
wouldn't, you know?
Oh,
So,
and that's so old. That God, in New York, I remember like in the late 70s, I went to a reader, and what she wanted me to do was bring a dress of mine and pin $20 bills on it, and that she would pray over this for 7 days and the curse would be relieved. And I just thought, what the hell are you talking about? It just like, no. And it, unfortunately, I think a lot, and I don't think there's a lot of professional readers out there, Jenna. I mean, when I say professional, I mean people that this is their full-time work, and again, that life-sustaining income. They're actually creating a life-sustaining income.
mhm.
Is it easy to do? Hell no. You have to have a lot of perseverance. You actually have to have a pretty strong ego. You have to really take a beating, because I've gotten that even from family, where I'm this hustler, or I'm like on the make, or I'm making money from this shit, and it's like, babe, it's a legitimate business.
Mhm.
It's like, if you want to look at me like your professional friend, but I call myself a creative advocate,
Mm.
you
I,
know?
I I agree with that, especially family and friends. I feel like I have had friends who wanted to break into this business and then just wanted to continue to pick my brain, pick my brain, pick my brain, basically giving them everything for free,
Right.
and in the moment I'm like, hey, listen, do you want to formalize this like into a coaching relationship? And they're like, oh man, I can't, blah, blah, blah. But that's the other part of this. As people are becoming professional readers, we have to invest in ourselves. And I see like
Right.
a lot of people balk at that. But every time I've invested in myself, it's come back, obviously, in the money that I'm making or how I'm making it. So that's the other part of this equation, that if we are going to have a business and we're asking people to treat us like a business, then we need to treat ourselves like a business,
Right.
which means like not having like a janky website, pay to make it look good. If you can't do it, pay somebody else, write it off, like this is not, tarot reading is not, and that's been my whole thing, is professionalizing it, because like tarot's not just like grandma so and so at the kitchen table anymore and then you just give her $1 or whatever. Like there are
Yeah.
people that do this and do it well, and they deserve to be treated with the same kind of respect as any other professional. But that starts with us. That starts with us too. That's part of that as well.
Yeah, and I really think professional training helps just with being an entrepreneur
Mm.
and business basics. I remember my financial advisor said, Nance, is this a hobby? Are you like, is this grocery money for now, or is this grocery money for your old woman? Because the first one's called a hobby, and that's
Mm.
what 3/4 of the women in this United States are, literally, their businesses are considered hobbies. They
Mm.
don't make that much money. They supplement the house. That's wonderful, but they don't supplement them as independently. So um, I thought, wow, I don't know if it can be a business. And she said, every woman says that to me. It doesn't matter what your career is. Every woman says that to me.
Mhm.
They don't know if it can actually be a legit business. You know, um, let's pull a card on this.
Okay, yeah.
So we're going to keep using. I'm still using the vintage Amazon Tarot. And Jenna, what deck do you got today, baby?
I'm still working on the fountain right now. Fountain Tarot is
Uh,
still kind of talking to me right now, so
oh yeah,
I haven't switched up. We're sticking with that one.
and I got. Oh, this is so fun. This is one of the two Fool cards, and they call it the Innocence.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And what
I
I would
love it.
say, look at, they're just having a good time, spreading their legs, letting the air in. And I would just say, really, a vital business is you being your authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a perfect you that needs to, somehow you just have to get that perfect pulse where it's the perfect you. No, you got to be who you really are, what your passion really is, but you really do also need to know yourself pretty well. Like
Mhm.
to do a headstand, like that's pretty hard, you know? So it's kind of like, wait, how do I work? How does this work for me? And how can I bring my fun and passion to it? Because people smell that a mile away. They love that. They can feel it. You know, it's
Mhm.
like, and then they feel that passion, and it's like, yeah, I want a little bit of that. So, who'd you get?
Cool. So I got Eight of Swords.
You.
And I feel like this is talking a lot about, I'm going to have to refer back to my notes, but I talked about the three C's: the critic, the confidant, and the
Oh,
comparison, the three
yeah.
C's that determine sabotage versus success.
Mhm.
And when I do business coaching, there are a lot of people who don't make it even after that. And there are a lot of people who do. And the difference is not in the quality of the reader. The difference is if you can get around this inside game, if you can't allow this to sabotage you, because that to me is the number one determinant. Like if you can't get out of the comparison game, if you just allow that inner critic just to take off and run, this then we're dead in the water. That kind of comes back to what you were saying around you need to have a strong ego. you
Yeah, you
know
do. Yeah, you
you
do.
do. And then also know when to like take yourself out of communities, because there's a lot of within any community, and Tara is no exception. There are a lot of people with big follow numbers. There are a lot of people that have a big they look and feel very amazing, but they're not pro readers. And they're really good at social media, but are they good at reading? Those are two different skill sets that may not be the same. So we may be comparing ourselves to somebody who's not even doing what we're doing. So we have to be
Right.
really careful about that. So for me, this is the biggest, most important. Like I was like, oh yeah, when I got it, it's like this is the number one piece, is like
Mhm.
getting out of your own way so that you
Right.
can be successful. Which is the fool, right? Like, don't let all
Totally.
this structure you. You have to have beginner's mind. You don't know that you don't know that, or that you can't do that. You don't know that yet.
Right. Right. Well, let's just talk about just some black and white ideas. So, what are your office hours like? Do you vary them? Do you kind of keep the same office hours for a season? Do you keep office hours?
I have like regular hours to see clients.
Mhm.
Like I'll have the way I do it is I like to do things in chunks. So I read no more than 4 hours reading hours a day, and they're usually all
Same here.
together. Really,
Same
yeah.
here.
So I'm
Yeah.
like, I'll start at 10 in the morning, and then they have to be within that time, or it's evening or afternoon, because then that allows me time to do all the administrative stuff. So I would say that I'm easily full time, if not a little bit more, just to get all this stuff together. And
Now,
I
you
feel
know,
like I haven't really been good at boundaries. I'm
oh,
working on it.
full time for part time people, though. Full time, this is at least what my financial advisor said, is 25 hours. That's actually full time for part-time people, because they're all, that's 25 client hours. Then
Mm-hmm.
you have all the other hours at admin, monies, tracking, marketing, getting your, it's 25 is like high for a full-time, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
I
just
have, go ahead.
phone calls and emails and questions, and if if
Hmm.
people don't want to use the online scheduler, oh God, then it's like 15 emails back and forth by the time it all happens.
Yeah,
People that
what scheduler do you use?
I'm on Acuity.
Me too.
Yep.
I love
I love
Acuity.
Acuity. Yeah.
It's $10 a month.
Oh, mine isn't. I've got the higher option to 25, unless you're grandfathered in. But it has all the integrations that I want. Because I think that's the other thing is like time is sacred for us as service
Right.
professionals, because anything that takes up more time is more time that's being taken away from. The more we can streamline over here, the more impactful that money that we're getting in direct service can be for us
Right.
in total, right? So I'm always trying to nickel and dime for efficiency, always.
Well, I call Acuity my secretary. So
Yeah.
she's my technical secretary, and um, because it takes so much time for me to figure out what times are open that you can do, and it's like, no, you go to my website and figure that out. That it's pretty, unless you're really like, wow, I can't do that, then I'll help you out. But I don't like to handhold through something that is actually kind of easy to do. I will help those that are, technically not proficient or feel bad about that. I have hours. I try to do hours in either in the morning. I do give myself 2 days off, Wednesdays and Sundays, no readings, no emails, nothing. I'm not. I'll send recordings on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
And I charge for recordings too,
Mm-hmm.
because I realized, God, that was taking up 2 to 3 hours of my time sending recordings.
Oh, how do you resend recordings? What's your process on that?
I use a little tape thing that I got from Radio Shack, which isn't
Mm-hmm.
even employed anymore, and tape, or through free conference call, you can get free recordings of your phone,
Mm-hmm.
and then I send that through Hightail.
Okay.
A-
Okay.
And I don't charge for phone readings because I don't have to download. I don't have to go through a couple steps
Mm-hmm.
there. But for in-person ones, I charge $5 for a recording.
Mm. Yeah, that
So a
makes
lot of
sense.
people just pull out their own phones and record, and that's
Mm-hmm.
that's cool. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, that's all right. But I need my time to be paid for if I'm going to be sending recordings. And
Mm-hmm.
but I try to do some nights. I'm really thinking of the working person. So what helps
Mm-hmm.
the working person?
Mm-hmm.
And I have some mornings, which is crazy. How many people will do an 8 a.m.? That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
It's just like, but I
Yeah.
offer that once a week. Like I have
Mm-hmm.
real early mornings, some evenings, and Saturdays. And I've always worked on Saturdays, and
Mm-hmm.
Saturdays is my cash cow day. That's the day, that, I mean, that fills up immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Saturdays always fill up. And I know it's a big surrender, but frankly, I have Wednesdays and Sundays off, so I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something about, and I got this advice from my friend who's a homeopathist, and he literally has, I'm not kidding you, a 3-month waiting list just for clients. And I'm like, okay, how do you do that, buddy? And he talked about a book that we'll mention at the end when we're talking about resources. But basically said, when I first started out, I set my office hours, and if no one was there, I sat there and worked on my business.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I didn't do laundry, and I didn't brush it off. If I had 9 to 12 listed for office hours, my butt was in a seat working on marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it was perfect. I really needed to hear that, because it's
Mm-hmm.
like, are you going to commit, and are you going to do the work you need to do? Because it's boring, mundane bullshit,
Yes.
and you got to get through that.
You got, yeah, let me talk to that too, because I have a lot to say on this subject, as you know, but I do a lot of coaching with people that want to build their businesses. And one of the big derailers is this idea that you can fit this business in around all the other things you have going on in your life. So it's
Mhm.
like, well, I have a part-time job, and then I've got my young kids, and then I'm going to do this. Like, unless you are making really hard, these are my business hours for this
Yeah,
business will never happen. Like, it needs the same time you're giving everything else in order to grow.
yeah.
And a lot of people don't get that. They're like, well, if I don't have clients, I'm not working. You best be working. It's
There's
like
other work.
I'm my own manager who's like, if you got time to lean, you got time to clean. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and not getting caught down the Facebook rabbit hole, and just,
God.
guys, no, you got to stay focused. That's part of
Mhm.
ego, though. Ego, that's where ego comes in, because ego goes, if you can channel your ego is kind of like, I'm special. I have something to say. I can
Mhm.
do this, and it's like, okay, good. Then it's kind of a game,
Mhm.
like, let's just do this. This is fun. Or or try to make fun of stuff. During this quarantine time, Jenna, how do you feel about discounting, discounting prices? Where are
Um,
discounts
well,
in general too?
yeah. I rarely discount. my
Right.
prices. I typically do add-ons, but in March I did do a discount that I may revisit. Like you, evenings and weekend hours are gone like this. Um, but I did a 15% off for work from home. So if it was daytime, work day, weekday hours, 15% off. And that seemed to do really well, to the point where I may actually incentivize that later on, that like, a daytime, a non competitive hour, maybe a little
Right.
less. The other thing I do is if people want same day readings, if I can make it happen, there's a 30% extra surcharge to make that happen.
Wow. Good. I do not do same day readings. I don't.
Yeah.
I need, when I wake up, I need to know where my energy is going that
Mm,
day. I can't,
mm,
there's no surprises with that.
yeah.
I can't, I won't do same day. But I only do a discount at Christmas time. That's it.
Mm, mm, mm,
So and that's like $30 off, maybe a
mm,
regular price, and it's crazy because people usually just, just get one for themselves. Very few people actually give
mm.
that as a gift. They just, but they know I've been consistent enough. I've been doing it, that discount, for 12 years now, that my long-term clients just kind of wait, sometimes until they can get that discount. And it's like,
Yeah.
hey, it's worth it to me. And I also give that only to the people that are signed on my
Mm,
newsletter.
mm, mm,
I
mm.
don't do that for just online. I don't go online with that. And have you ever played with the idea of Patreon?
I have not, because I don't have the information yet to see if it's something that would be worth my time.
Hmm.
Though I did want to talk about the discount thing one more time, because I had a really fun thing I did. I do discounts on usually like Black Monday, right? Or no, is it
Oh, yeah.
Small
Black Friday?
Business, Black Friday? Yeah, Black Friday. Yeah, I do Black Friday. Sorry, I'm getting them mixed up. But last year I did something really insane. So I play lots of board games with my husband, and you have those like D&D dice that are like D10s
Oh, yeah.
that can go up to 100. And so I said, I'm going to roll the dice, and whatever I get is going to be the discount you get. I was insane. So, and I did that for everything. I did for all my classes that I was offering. I was doing it for gift certificates, and I did it for, regular readings.
Wow.
Um, yeah, yeah. So that was a lot of fun. But I do have to say that every time I've increased my prices and have like been more respectful to myself,
Right.
my bottom line continues to grow. So like, the universe is like, oh, she's serious. Like she actually wants to honor her own self as a resource, and we're going to put the energy out to honor that too. Because I
You
think
know,
if you're a new client, if you're a new reader, I swear people smell it. They know. Even if you think you're front and I'm super confident and I know what I'm talking about. They know. They can feel it, and then they'll take advantage if they can, or some people will.
right. And oh God, what was I just going to say about the price? Shoot, it just slipped me completely. But now it did make me think, though, I think to really be not competitive, but to really hold your own,
Mm.
you have to be technically proficient. You
Of
really do.
course.
You have to
Yeah.
do Square. You need to do Venmo. You need to do PayPal. You need with something that is an electronic payment. You need a website. You really need a website, and that could just be a one-page WordPress free. I mean, you don't. I'm shocked at some of the older women I've met that have put thousands of dollars into like just a website. And and a great website will cost you thousands, but when you're first starting out, I don't know if you need all the bells and whistles.
Mhm,
You just
mhm,
need my contact information. This is who I am. This is how you can schedule with me.
mhm, mhm.
And it's just like it doesn't have to be the best of the best. It just needs to be really competent and easy to use
Mm.
you know
Yeah, oh gosh, we could talk about this subject for like at least 10 more of these things, but um, I think that sometimes a sneaky way that your inner saboteur works on you is like, I need to have this perfect. I need to have all 50 steps figured out before I can even do anything. Or I need to take
Right.
just one more class and do one more thing. And it's like sometimes these things aren't intellectual exercises. You got to actually do them to
Right.
get better at them. And sometimes you're going to make really hellacious mistakes. And sometimes you're going to take a risk that doesn't make sense. That's all part of how this works. You
That's right.
know?
And I'll tell somebody who's really, I do some coaching, not like you. I do more mentoring with
Mm,
actually reading cards and stuff,
mm,
but I've gotten into some helping people with businesses. And I'll say a couple things to new readers. One is um, go to a beauty salon and read
mm,
for everyone there that does the work, beauticians, for free. For free. Because they're our everyday psychologists. And they open circles of clients that are just phenomenal. There's
mm.
nothing quite like a salon to get some things rolling for you.
Yeah.
Um, the other is just to, keep consistent. What are your office hours? What
Mhm.
are you charging? Don't keep throwing new discounts in there and new prizes, and stay real, like stay very stable, like just
Mhm,
appear stable, even if you
mhm. Yeah. Appear stable. See, that's the operative.
Well, let's see.
I,
What else did we want? The,
yeah. Oh
the
my gosh.
discount. Oh,
Uh,
add-ons. Talk more about add-ons. When you talk,
add-ons.
what are add-ons, Jenna?
Sometimes, like when I have an office, I'll have an add-on like a little baggie of crystals. I've done that for things, or
Wow.
following up with like some kind of report or something. Like right now, I'm working on reports for Chinese horoscopes, like the chi horoscopes as well as the zodiac. So I do things like that, or I can add on just time. So it's like, if you
Hmm.
have if you do 3 sessions, maybe the fourth one will be an hour and a half, and the
Okay.
half hour isn't, included. If I do parties, then the host gets their reading for free. So
Right.
psychologically, the idea of adding on works better than this idea of like I'm discounting
Right.
my value,
Absolutely.
right?
Added value.
Um,
I have a couple things I'll do in a reading, especially if they're long-term mentoring
mm,
clients, not usually one-on-ones, or the one-offs, but I have a thing called the House of Soul, and it's a meditation that I lead somebody through to kind of talk to different aspects of themselves.
ooh,
I'll send that MP3 to them
mm,
afterwards so they can do
mhm.
it on their own.
That's
I also have a
perfect.
meditation of the body, mind, and spirit that you can actually do
Mm,
with pulling a card if you
mm,
want, if you have cards.
mm,
I'll send that. So
mm,
I love visualization work. So it's
mm,
really easy for me to share journeys that
mm.
you can do on your own
That's
without.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
that actually made me think of like I have a house clearing how-to guide. I have a um I do rituals sometimes with people with cord cutting, so I'll have a how-to guide for that. So yeah, and
Right.
sometimes it just depends on what's kind of being discussed, or if someone reaches out to me and they're regular, I'll be like,
Right.
hey, listen, I have this resource for you. Um, yeah, I think the goal is to try to be like kind of like the go-to woo-woo person, with your clients. So even
Yeah.
if you don't know, then they count on you knowing the person who probably knows. Like I do a lot of referring out for mediumship, because I can do mediumship as in readings,
Right.
but that's often different than a medium whose ghost is showing up and saying, hey, yo, I feel like there's other people that are better at that than me. So then, of
Right.
course, I send them along to their people.
I usually refer out the bulk of people that really that I really, really treasure are astrologers,
Mhm.
because my readings will often parallel. I work with like 2 or 3 astrologers that I constantly refer out, especially for second Saturn returns. That's a big niche of mine
Mhm.
is because I'm 61, so I went through the vortex twice. So it's
Mhm.
kind of like I'm real good at this, swimming in a vortex, you know. So, but this astrologer could really help you with your first Saturn or your second Saturn return. You know, like
Mhm.
they're just more. It's a different kind of intake or insight, but
Mhm.
it's helpful.
Mhm.
Hey, let's pull a card
Mhm.
about the quarantine time and what to expect of yourself in terms of getting some of these projects off the ground or working on some things that ideas that you
Ooh.
had. Because I feel like a lot of us are under a great deal of stress to stay
Mhm.
in that capitalistic mind of I have to produce, I have to produce, I have to be effective. And you know, when this all stops and we look back, Jenna,
Mhm.
I think right now our future self should just help us get over this, get over it, because we are here, we are staying alive, we are helping each other, we're trying to keep our spirits up. That's the number one thing right now.
Mhm.
The number one thing, not you saving the whole world within 2 months, you have everything done that you said you were going to get done. It's like that's still the old stinking thinking, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm. Mhm.
But let's see what our cards say about that. So
Yes.
you go ahead, you start.
Well, interestingly, or maybe not, I got the Hierophant.
Yeah.
So I don't know. For me, I find the Hierophant very helpful in many ways because the Hierophant is the guide of a process or procedure,
Yes.
where like now we do this and now this is done, and that's usually based on the road that other people have walked many, many, many times before you, and it's based on older wisdom. So for
Yeah.
me, part of this, what I'm really hearing for this in the now is maybe you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Maybe you don't need to come up with the next best thing. Maybe you should just do the things that you have and streamline them or make them better or help other people guide themselves through the process. So I kind of
Well, and
like
I
that.
also think the Hierophant, you know, he's the step beyond the emperor. It's beyond structure. It's about
Mhm.
repetition. It's about ritual. So
Mhm.
could you make this an act of love?
Mm.
Could you know that, you know, the way that you do things are ritual?
Mhm.
I actually think church might be powerful because we repeat it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Anything that's repeated really gains power. So it's like,
Yeah.
what do you absolutely need to do for yourself during this time
Mm.
on a regular basis to
Yeah,
kind
I
of
think
like,
so.
yeah, to to
And
get,
what's your why? Like, what's the meaning below all of that? Like, what's the
yeah,
purpose? Yeah.
yeah. And not because I have to, but because
Mhm.
Jesus, like I'm starting to realize, and you and I were talking before the video, it's like, oh my God, this is such a window for me to spend time with my son and my husband. And it's like, in a way that we've never really been, it's such a gift.
Mhm.
It's such a gift.
Mhm.
So, us watching specific Netflix series together is our ritual.
Mhm.
You know, and but we do it so, hey, if you get this done and this done, and if I get this done and this done, I'll meet you at 3 o'clock and we'll get to watch another episode. I mean, it's our reward.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I got woo, okay, I got the Two of Pentacles,
Oh.
which is about change. That
Mhm.
well, they say change is their key word there. And what I want to say is in terms of this time right now, do it when you can, don't do it when you can't. You know,
Mhm.
like just like when you're in the flow of it, go for it. When you're not, I've realized I can really do creative uh, ideas and work on projects, and I'm involved in 3 right now where, you know, we're actually, this was all humming along before the quarantine. So now it's like, oh, we have all this time. But we may have all the time in the world, but very few of us have focus,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know, because by 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning or in the afternoon, I feel like this collective fog of fear and ambiguity rolls over
Mhm.
me. And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, I just need to walk my dog now. You know, like this is so know when you can focus and know when you can't focus, and don't beat yourself up when you can't.
Mhm.
Don't beat yourself up. It's just like, I cannot focus right now. But I'm finding for myself, if I can do 9 a.m. to 1, I can do something there that's
Mhm.
feels, even if that's writing a letter or postcard to people, even if this is not tarot related,
Mhm.
because we're under such dire, this is huge stress right now.
Mhm.
Even if you feel like you're doing okay, you are definitely getting the wavelengths of other people. I don't care how intuitive or non-intuitive you are feeling it. You know,
Mhm.
we do live as a collective. So that's cool. Let me see what
Mm.
else is on our list.
Yeah. Mhm.
Make sure we don't lose anything.
Yeah.
Okay, now I think we're really at a place where we could talk about remote readings, which oddly enough, this is this was the one thing that I this was the only thing I said, wow, there's a lot of readers right now at home. There's a lot of people right now at home. Let's put them together. How do you do that? And I thought instantly, wow, there's a lot of readers that don't know how to do remote readings. And so that's all I wanted. That's why I got in touch with you in the very first place. I said, Jenna, let's teach remote readings. We can do that. Like, we can help other readers. You know, now, why would you help other readers? It's our calling. Our
Mhm.
calling is to witness and support people.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's our calling. So
Mhm.
if it's our calling, there's others like us. And if we can help them, we can maybe shift
Mhm.
an energy in this world to be more creative. My whole mission with my work is to empower people creatively.
Mhm.
So if they feel more creative, they're going to think outside the box and we're going to do things differently. So to me, that's like, I can contribute to someone's creativity. Maybe not always their spirituality or their religion.
Mhm.
That's kind of up to them. But their
Mhm.
creativity, I can kind of get going.
Mhm. Yeah, in terms of streaming, in person and stuff, and like streaming and online, is I really feel like there's two different camps, and there's not a lot of overlap between the two. I mean, obviously, I've written 2 books on in-person stuff, and that was strategic. That when I started my business, I saw the online readings blowing up, and I was like, where can I go? I'm gonna go the old way. I'm gonna go in person because most of my clients all want to be online readers,
Oh,
like I
wow.
have, and I actually have to talk them into also going in person sometimes.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think, like, again, there's two different camps, and that you have the I'm online and in technology, or I'm not online and technology is weird and I'm not comfortable with it and I don't know what to do with it and I don't know how to read with it through that. And then you have the other camp, which is like, well, I only read online, I have a great social media following, or I only do like email readings, but I'm scared to death to go in person and
Right.
see people. And I'm like, what? Like, isn't it weird, Nancy? I don't know if you know, Nisha, if you know notice this, but like, the tarot community has a way of like always separating into 2 camps and then feeling very strongly about both the camps that they're in. Do you ever get
Right.
that? Where it's
Oh,
like certification, yes, or no, and nah, or
oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I uh, yeah, it is crazy. It's crazy, you know, that um and I think if you looked at trends, if you really look at where we're going,
Mm-hmm.
um person to person is so valuable.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, you know, there I think people are going to be craving face-to-face non-screen experiences. That's
Of
actually
course.
going to be
Mm-hmm.
kind of, I know, like when I run North Star Tarot Conference, I know it's successful when no one's taking selfies
That's great.
because no, their phones aren't
Yeah.
there. They're they're
Yeah.
they're they're engaged. They're talking to each other. They're learning, or they're just
Mm-hmm.
goofing around. They're not keeping
Mm-hmm.
themselves distracted. They're not, you know. And I'm not saying that people take selfies or aren't doing the work. I'm just saying, you know, like if you cook a good meal and someone burps afterwards, that's a
Mm.
compliment. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
thank you. You know, and so when I do an event and no one's using their phones, to me, that's a compliment.
Mm. That's true. I was just thinking about that. I said I took almost no pictures at the conference this year.
Right.
Like I was like, I have no pictures. Um, the one thing I did want to mention is even though, like in my experience, most of the people that come to me want to just do online. Like that's all they want to do because they think it's easier, and it's not at all,
Oh no.
like at all. But in my experience, the average clients don't want online readings because they think that somehow the readings online are going to be less accurate and less helpful. That's been a huge issue.
Absolutely.
As I
Absolutely.
moved and tried to move most of my in-person clients to online, and once they've convinced themselves of it, there's almost nothing that you can do to like change their mind. That's been my experience too.
You know,
Like,
this brings up something that I've never talked about until now, and I'm like,
oh,
I would love to hear your opinion on this. Is how do you feel
hmm.
about any kind of divine work, diviners that look up their client before they do the reading?
um,
That they Google
oh,
their client and get
uh, personally, it would not help me. It would make it harder for me.
right,
So, and it's funny because people think that there's a hierarchy of accuracy, which is
right,
like in person, video, and then phone. But it's actually for me, it's flipped. Phone is the most accurate, but shades of tenths of a percent because I don't have to try to get out of the way of what you look like, what you're wearing, your clothes. I'm just sitting in the cars and I'm just spitting what I'm seeing,
right.
and that is actually the best way. And that's opposite to where I think a lot of people think it is.
Yeah.
But anyways, why were you asking me about the Googling?
Because, because of the internet. I mean, we do have information on each, and I do think some clients feel that way. It's like, well, are you going to, you know, do, are you going to get information about me? Again, it goes back to
Mm-hmm.
that deep down inside, are you a huckster?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, I would say on one part, you should always have an eye out for anything you can, any services you buy, you need to know who you're getting those from, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But I find that practice appalling.
I
I
don't
find
know
it
who's,
appalling.
yeah, and
I
who's got the
think
time for that? I don't have the time. I
it's like, wow, that no, I mean, but there are people that are really feel like, no, to serve my client fully, I want to know more about them, and it's like, what, like I just, yeah. So
Wow.
that's just my bugaboo, and we all, you have to
Mm-hmm.
know what your ethics are, you have to know what your boundaries are,
Mm-hmm.
you have to know what you do, so it helps. I think some of the best teachers I've ever had in my life were the horrible ones, because you look at it and go, the
Yeah.
fuck are these, don't do it like that, so it's like it helps, it helps.
Mm.
But you're right about phones, and this is a little secret that, unless you're watching this video all the way here, a lot of my clients might not. So that's good. But I actually think my phones are the most accurate.
Yep.
I
Yep.
really do, because
But
there's,
by shades of very, very small because
oh
they're
yeah,
professional. It's not like,
right,
oh, you're losing 30% by not taking that choice. For me, it's just easier. Like I don't have to work so hard
right,
at it. And the way I explain that to my clients is that in any shamanistic tradition, whether it's in Mongolia, Vietnam, Africa, wherever, the shaman usually wears a hat that has a screen in front of their face. And that's not coincidental to all these cultures. It's because they know that visual processing
yes,
gets in the way of the other non-ordinary place we need to, like, we is like, I'm not a shaman where I'm like actually in that place. What I'm doing is I'm going, oh, what's in here, and I'm looking, but I that's hard to do when you've got all this happening. I don't know
yeah,
if you've noticed that.
yeah,
So
yeah. So tell me, okay, so let's just run down just our own protocol, because for people
mm,
out there that don't do any remote and really are like, really, folks, I really think we're going to be here through the end of May, if not longer. So remote readings might really help right now if you could get those out there. With an email reading, what I do, and everyone has a very different way of doing this, I will, first of all, have you request it so I don't have it on Acuity. You can't schedule an email reading because sometimes I get slammed with email readings, so I can't get them all. You know what I mean? I don't want them taking up live person time, but I also need to, put them in a queue. So I'll tell people I have a 3-day turnaround. Send me all the questions you have, and I'll tell you which ones I can actually approach within a 15-minute period. I will write and divine as much as I can, and I'm pretty fast. I'm pretty good. After 30 years, I should be pretty fast and good at this. But it's like whatever I can divine in 15 minutes. I will mention the deck I use, and I will mention the cards I pick, but I don't do pictures of cards. So they can Google those images if they want. And I will do the email reading to you as soon as I receive your $40 from the invoice I sent you. Because boy, did I learn the hard way. If you're not in person, you have to prepay. I have gotten burned 3 times, and I finally went, no more. No, if it's not paid before, I don't do it.
Yeah. All of my sessions have an option where you can either pay 50% or pay the full amount ahead of time. But we will not have a session until you put some money on the table.
Right.
And you know what? Like every time someone calls me on the phone and I'm like busy and I don't have time to take their credit card, I'm just like, whatever, we'll talk. Every time they'll do a no-show on me, and I'm just like kicking myself, and I'm like, when am I going to learn?
And what I do with no-shows, even though a lot of no-shows are, they probably don't come back, but I'll say, you can schedule another reading with me if you pay for half of the session that you missed and the full session ahead of time, because I won't even consider anything less than that. How do you do email readings? What's your structure?
I don't do email readings, so it's not an offering I have. Sometimes I have done like as a special, like one, like I did something called a snow day special where it was like this huge blizzard and everyone was stuck, and I was like, send me one question, I'll do up to 15 minutes. But I did it as an audio recording. And then I just emailed the audio recordings like that, like because it was just a lot faster. Actually, I wanted to talk about the recording resource I have that might be helpful. So I record all my sessions, and I use an online cloud-based recording website called Vocaroo. It's free to use, and you can email them right from there. So I'll stop a session, an hour session, maybe like 4 minutes before the end, to make sure I've run the card, and then I send them the recording. That's all included in the text.
How do you spell that?
V as in violin, O, C as in cat, A as in apple, double R as in red, O as in olive.
Thank you.
Sweet. Yeah, and even my Zoom sessions that are MP4s, that are these, I do Vocaroo audio for them only, because again, like with the Zoom recordings, you have 2 options, which is download it and then keep it on your account. If you download it, that's one extra step. That takes a long time. Then you got to re-upload it somewhere else. Then you got to share it to that person. Times that by 15 in a week. That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, Nelly, I can't. So I just go, here's an audio of the recording, and that's all we're getting. That's all we're going to do. Plus, I find a lot of people don't like to see themselves. We're all our like worst critics, So
right,
like, oh God, I didn't know I look like that or I sound like that. I'm like, you're fine.
Right. I was teaching a class where the students were just appalled. They're like, there's no way that the energy could be as good non-person as in person. So I did this exercise in the class where I said, okay, I'm thinking of a really good friend of mine right now, and I just want you to kind of like come up with a message. And you may get a download, you may not. And if you need to pull a card, go ahead. you know,
Mhm.
and the messages were wonderful. They're very specific, they were very common, like there were
Mhm.
common themes happening and everything. And
Mhm.
then it got to me again, and I said, okay, the friend you read for, well, he's dead. So if you can get that kind of community, that kind of
Mhm.
communication from a dead
Mhm.
person, you can certainly get that from someone at the end of the phone,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. One of my stories that I tell people that are particularly resistant is the CIA had secret clairvoyance that disbanded in 1986. They were remote viewing. So how are they supposed to remote view into Russia if they haven't ever been to Russia? How did and actually there is video of Carter uh, thanking this group for finding a downed plane. Like the evidence is out there, people. Let's put our foil hats on. No, but it's true. Like, how do people connect with the deceased? How do people find people? How do people locate objects if they have to be there in order to do so? It doesn't. Any kind of inspection of this capability, and you see that
Mhm.
that's absolutely not the case. That this stuff has nothing to do with space and time. It's non-ordinary. It's outside of all of that. It doesn't apply to these rules.
Right.
So just
It's
trust
energy
us.
is energy, and
Yeah.
we're all connected. So
Hmm.
the people that can really read energy are just like in a web, in a way, not the web, a web. And it's just like you kind of find where that. So now, what I do with phones, though,
Mm,
phone and I kind of see phone. The one drawback for phone is they can't see the card, and so
mm,
sometimes I'll say, you absolutely have to Google
mm,
this one image. I
mm,
want you to
mm,
look at this image after the reading. But with phone, I use freeconferencecall.com.
mm,
We both call in. It records instantly.
mm,
It creates an MP3, and I usually work. I will not do in live person sessions for under an hour,
mm.
but I
Me
will
too.
do a half hour phone call.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So um, the phone call, and I do the same kind of grounding though. It's like, no, we're not going to jump in right away. I want you to just I'll do that grounding that I did in I think the
Hmm.
second video,
Hmm.
and just get them in their bodies, get them in their room, get them safe, but
Hmm.
also trusting that they are spirit and that we're going to use this session to really get just some great insights that are
Hmm.
needed.
Hmm.
And then at the end of the reading, to also make sure that you close it up. Those
Hmm.
things are really bigger when you're doing remote. You,
Hmm.
you really
Agree.
need kind of like open that door. Here we are, grateful, spirit, speak to us. And then at the end, thank you, close the door.
Hmm.
And I even tell people, don't think about this reading the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Because I shifted stuff as a high priestess. I came into your big pan or pot of soup and I stirred it up, but your high priestess or priest will have a lot more to add if you just keep it open.
Hmm. Hmm.
Don't think about the reading, just see
Hmm.
how things were moved,
I
you
say
know.
the same thing, different words, the same concept.
Yeah.
The one thing I do want to mention about phone, I don't know if you do this, but I've learned over time to like when someone books with me, they get like a confirmation email,
Mhm,
automatic.
mhm,
And so on when they book a phone session, they get the phone template confirmation email. And in that, I'm like, you need to be in a place where you can be undisturbed and you're also not driving. Because I have had people,
oh my
like a
god.
lot of people will have a phone reading in a parked car, totally fine. That may be the only place you can have a private, cool. But not also if you're driving, and also not, you're not driving, but you're next to that person in this private session. I've had people who are getting ready for work, like they're like putting clothes on around their phone and like grabbing their stuff. And I'm just like, that's not what this is.
Right. Focus.
Yeah, and it
Gotta
gets in my
focus.
way too. Like
Yeah.
if I'm hearing that if we're not connecting because you're doing all this, then that's hard. That to me is more important whether some's in person or not, is
Wow.
whether they're they're grounded and settled and connecting with me, energetically.
Wow.
I don't know. Have you had people like that?
You know what, Jenna? I kind of think there have been people that have been driving that. Yeah, I need to really look at that because that might be happening a lot more than I think. And that's not cool. That's,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, no, 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 don't multitask with spirit and human. Do not multitask that. If you're on the highway, you're on the highway.
Yeah, pull it over, friends. I
Yeah,
get it.
really.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
one thing I do with both the phone and Skype, usually I do Skype. I don't do Facebook Live. I just feel comfortable with Skype. So that's what I
Mm-hmm.
do. I do Skype. Um, I always offer in-person clients anyhow. I always have 6 decks and they pick which deck they're going to use, right? And I usually
Mm-hmm.
show the top card so they get us. I said just pull the one whose art you resonate with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I actually do the same thing with phone and Skype in that I'll tell them to close their eyes and I put my hand on each deck and send them the energy of that picture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really amazing how people just really go with that. I very rarely do I meet somebody, except for, sometimes it's their own insecurity, like, I can't do this. And I can get that psychically. And I'll say,
Yeah.
guess. There's nothing wrong with guessing. I do not underestimate guessing.
Yeah.
It just, but I'll have them kind of pick the deck, not by looking at the picture, just energetically.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, to me, as if we're spirits having a human experience, right away I want to engage. First of all, help the human feel safe, loved, and protected, so spirit can kind of just flow on in, and that picking a deck is that spirit's choice or vote, but right away they're engaged.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a mundane cosmic to-do list. Let's check this relationship and when is this going to happen and when is this going to happen. And it's like, I love to-do lists, but only in that framework of mystery and magic all around us. Like all of this can change.
Mm-hmm. Amen, sister.
I mean, because I've heard other people, which is kind of cool, but I just don't do it, is like some people, when they read for other readers, they'll say, do you have that deck? So they're both working with the same deck, which I think is very cool. That's a cool idea.
That is cool. Yeah, that is a cool idea.
So
I love that you do that. Maybe I'll start doing that. I don't tend to do that. Like I have like the deck of the week that I feel that I'm working with. However, sometimes I'll get a sense that the energy of that person and the deck are like, it's just not, right. And then I'll shift and find something else,
Right.
And then I also have decks that are like party decks. Like they're like, yeah, man. And then other decks are like, no, you are not going to use me for a party. It's just funny to me like how different they all are, Oh no. Well, she had something to say about that, obviously.
Wow. Newt. Okay. Well, I was just going to say, let's end, if that's all right with you. Let's pull another card in terms of just how do you really blend your business, your boundaries, and your being in a way that you're serving the world in the way that it desperately needs us to do right now, but the world serves you and helps you eat now and when you're old. So I'm just going to pull up. Oh, that's what it is. My black cat is now walking around.
Oh.
So Mr. Gizmo thought that would be fun. Cats. Giz. What are you doing, Giz? All right. I got, I love her, the Queen of Pentacles.
Oh, nice. Oh, I love that deck so much.
I do too.
Oh,
and I
awesome.
just to keep it all together. Queen she's perfect for this because it's like, wait, I use my resources, my time, my energy, my focus, my money, and my health have to blend. Not one of them can steal from the others. Not one of them can be weak Like they all have to work really well together. So to be a really beautiful business person, you got to really kind of know what your own spiritual practice is. You got to know what your source is. You got to know what your boundaries are. You got to know what freaks you out.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know what turns you on. And no one can help you with that. Like you actually really can just do that. You can kind of figure these things out. And I would say trial by error is great.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to learn what you don't like real fast, So just like just check mark. What did you pick?
Well, I got Two of Wands, which I
Oh,
think is very apt.
I love that Two of Wands.
Yeah, isn't that nice? Um, and I feel like this is for me as much as for anyone else because your girl is a triple Gemini, and I've got the worst, ooh, shiny kind of like personality. Like, it's really like people have a hard time talking to me because I shift topics so incredibly quick.
Right.
This is probably why I wrote those books because I needed the help so much that I needed to like write it all down. So, Two of Wands is it can't ever happen unless you plan for it. You have to make space and time for all three things being
Yeah.
boundary and business. They all have to work together.
Well, not only that, but the chopsticks, it's
Oh,
like that
yeah.
you're not stabbing stuff, you're gathering stuff, like
Yeah, that's true. And there's like an artful dance and a
yeah.
careful tension
Yeah,
to
that's
how
right.
that needs to happen.
That's right. Which
Yeah.
just reminded me, and I'm glad you said that, is like we wanted just to end the note with resources that we thought would really be helpful. So
Mm.
why don't you tell us about your books, Miss Jenna?
Okay. There's Have Tarot Will Travel, which was published in 2014. And that is just a how to like bootstrapping your way into starting a business and getting your tarot chops, which is around festival work. And then the other book that I published last year was Have Tarot Will Party, how to be an event-based party reader. So those are the two. But even if you don't want to do a party and even if you don't want to do festivals, there are business building mechanics
Yeah.
for readers that would still make it helpful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I've written a book called Psychic Tarot: How to Use Your Natural Abilities to Read the Cards. And there's very little business in there, but there's a whole lot about just your creating your language, as an artist. How are you creating your art form? Because tarot to me is an art form. It's art, for one thing, but you as an artist, you have to develop your own language, and you get to develop your own language. But I would also say what has been pivotal for me is a book called, and I wrote it down so I didn't it's an old one. It's an oldie but a goodie. It is it 90 days? I always mess this. God, where did I write this? Oh, here it is. Excuse me. I'm taking time.
Let me give a couple more do you have
Oh,
it? Oh,
yeah. It's 12 Months to Building Your Ideal Practice by Lynn Grodsky,
mm-hmm.
Grodski. It's a workbook. You don't need the hard book. And it was really created for therapists, and it's kind of perfect for readers, because it's really dealing with the energy of people and how it's not just business basics, it's business basics in supporting other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I love it. I've done it twice in my life. I'll probably do it again in 3 or 4 years because I change so rapidly. So that
Mm-hmm.
it really helps.
Mm-hmm. Other ones is Christiana Gaudet has a tarot business book, Fortune Stellar. And then there's that oldie but goodie, last name of Jette, Jette, Professional
Yeah.
Reader's Guidebook. Recent resource I've had, I revolutionized how I do my newsletters from a book that's actually written for art like writers, but it's newsletters for writers, how writers can do. It's called Newsletter Ninja. Nancy Gabbett. Like it is.
Oh my God.
I used
Yeah.
it last summer, and it changed everything about the way I like I do it. Oh, also there is, in the US at least, there is a resource called SCORE. It's just how it's spelled. There are SCORE offices in almost every town and city, and it's free. You can get a free mentor who will work with you. You get free webinars, you get free classes. I've done them, I still do them just to
Yeah.
go and go, is there anything new that I don't know that I may
Right.
need to know? I mean, there's tons of resources out there for the work that we do.
Absolutely.
But we are missing the resource, which is you who's watching, because we need more of you.
That's right. That's right. So blessings on you, blessings on your work, blessings on the way that we're going to help a lot of people out of this, because I'm telling you, the next 6 months is going to be rock and roll. So, step up. You can tell people too, I'm just starting, and, God, I totally forgot this, but if you're really just learning how to read for others, you could, what I say is, do 100 readings free
Mm.
with the contingency that they do feedback. So you're not charging for the reading, but you give them a feedback form that they would mail back to you later anonymously. So you have no idea who wrote this feedback form. And I have a feedback form, but whatever you want. To me, what's important is, did the reader know, did I feel comfortable with the information? Did they address my questions? Was the pacing good? Would I refer them to a friend? So, because if you're just going to throw yourself out there, do it with, feedback. You need to know what's working and not working. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So good luck, everybody. The world needs us.
Thanks for joining us, and you know where to find us if you have any questions or comments, right?
Yeah.
I'm like sad. I'm like, this is the end. Oh.
Nice comments, please.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Exactly. All right,
All right.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.